Money, money, money. Money, money, money. We got that fly Nubian money. We talk about that money. We all about that money. Money, money, money. Money, money, money. We got that fly Nubian money. We talk about that money. We all about that money. We love our black skin, our melanin, always focusing in on that money. We always win, money never thin, 'cause we hustling, always focusing in money, 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 money. We got that money, 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 money. We that fly Nubian money. Boss talk, only we stack it up.
I still love that flipping intro. I'm over here like I'm in the club. Okay, Fly Nubian Money. Okay, anyways, welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you to master your mindset and maximize your money. Let's get into it. The United States birth rate is continuing to fall, and a lot of people are trying to figure out why. Some blame changing values, modern dating, or people choosing careers over family. But for many people, the answer is much simpler than that. Life is expensive. Housing costs are high. Childcare can feel unaffordable. Healthcare, groceries, transportation, and everyday bills continue to rise, while many people are already struggling to stay financially stable. For a growing number of adults, having children no longer feels like an emotional decision alone. It feels like a financial calculation. And so people are not just asking themselves whether they want kids, they are asking whether they can realistically afford the life that comes with raising them, which we probably should have been asking all along. But that's another conversation. Thank you for joining us on today. I am Dr. Naja Vet, brand building strategist, a business coach. I'm joined with three other beautiful queens: Aisha Verzi, our financial expert. We have Dr. Angeline, founder of Melanated Neurons Communiverse, and Nomalanga, marriage, motherhood, and money-making expert. How are you ladies doing today? I feel like I haven't seen y'all forever. Never part. What do you guys think about this? When you hear these, we haven't got to the stats yet, but just the overall conversation of the birth rate has fallen. I know for me, the other day I saw a stat that for the first time in history, either history or 100 years, but I think it was history, the highest birth rate is women over 40, not teenagers, women over 40. So, when you think about it like that, it's like, dang. So what do you think, Aisha, when you hear that the U.S. birth rate is declining as the cost of living keeps rising?
Yeah, I'm not surprised with the history of what has been happening, with all the abortions happening and people really choosing to do other things. They don't want to focus on that. It's just want to happen. Unfortunately, that's why I feel.
And our executive producer just said, this is around the world, by the way. So it's not just the United States. We're seeing this everywhere, which makes sense because, I think that as women are getting out the house and working more and doing all the things, it's not just a United States thing. It's a worldwide thing where women are pursuing careers or waiting until later, or I don't want to say making the mistakes of our elders, because I think that would not be the right way to say that. At that time, children, people were getting married at 14, 15, 16 and having kids at a young age, and then 17, 18, 19, 20, and so forth. And so now we find ourselves here where women are waiting until over 40 to have kids. And those that are having kids younger, they're not having as many kids, right? Normally, I'm saving you for last because I know you're going to have something great to say. So I'm going to go to Dr. Angeline and get her feedback before I come to you. Go ahead, Dr. Angeline.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised either. Child, I just went to fill my gas tank up the other day and almost had a heart attack at the gas pump. Right? And I don't have kids. So I was like, wait, what? Yeah. No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. And actually, my mindset, even when I was younger, I didn't want to have kids originally. And then I said, if I did, I didn't want to have them till later, to when I was more established. So I'm not surprised at what I see.
Yeah, I didn't want to have kids when I was younger. I knew I didn't want to have kids. And I didn't want to get married. It wasn't until my son's father was the one who was like, "Listen, we gonna do this." And I was like, "All right." My mom asked me, "Could I do it?" Was I willing to do it myself, just in case? Like, just be prepared. That's not what we want, but just in case. Like, is this something that you can do? And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "You're older than me when I did it. You're more established than me. I got your back." And so I had my son, thinking that I would have more kids later. And then I didn't. But hindsight, I do wish I had had more kids. But Nomalanga, give us your thoughts on this situation.
When I was mulling the thing originally, I did want to just emphasize that correlation is not causation. The two things happening, excuse me, the US birth rate is declining, that's a fact, and the cost of living is rising, that's also a fact, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily related to each other or that one is causing the other. So that's one thing I thought. But yeah, I think the two ladies touched on it. Kind of going on with focusing on themselves, on their careers, and that's delaying things. I've always cautioned that sometimes doing that, the option actually leaves. You don't have the option anymore. So that is always going to be a factor, that sometimes you leave it until it's too late and then it's just not an option anymore. And then the other thing is there is, in recent years, immigration. I can tell you a quick story. That I've been a permanent resident in the United States. I arrived in the country when I was 19 years old. And just in recent years, when I was renewing my green card, because I never wanted to be a citizen, I wanted to stay being a citizen of Botswana. When I was renewing my green card, it was when Donald Trump was president the first time. He shut down all the I can't remember what they're called, the processing centers, and my green card just disappeared into thin air. And I paid like $10,000 to go through that process, and I had to start all over again. So as you can imagine, that's a very major thing, where you can end up not having people coming, and even the people who are over there cannot have the option to continue to stay. Even now, you're seeing all kinds of things happening where immigrants are being mistreated. They're being removed from the country after living for many years in the United States. And the interesting thing about the population boom in the United States, it was always because of immigrants. And when you shut off the immigrant process or cut it back, it is going to affect the population, and it's going to affect the birth rates.
I mean, I think a lot of that, very good points. I think a lot of that goes back to, and I've been talking about this for a while, is the clear people are very aware of the fact that they're going to become the minority. Yes. And so they are doing all the things in order to try to hold on to that. We got to get rid of the immigrants. We got to push back, hold back the Blacks and their progress. We got to do all these different things to try to hold on to our power and control. No abortions. Everybody got, people got to have babies. Like, they're doing all the things.
Yes.
That law that just passed that allows AI to be discriminative towards Black people. Like, it's apparent that they are grabbing at straws to try to figure out how do we can remain or contain some type of control in these next couple of years. So let's go to our first video and we'll keep this conversation going. In the chat, let us know what you think too. You're part of this conversation.
Birth rate, the fertility rate in the U.S. has been going down for years. It's now at a historic low. And what's really interesting when you get into the Pew Research underneath it is the reason people are not having kids has changed. So put up this graphic here, and I'll talk you through it. People over the age of 50 who have not had children, they say, look, it just didn't happen. Basically, I wanted to, but it was bad luck. Young people today say, I'm not even out here trying. I, period, full stop, don't want children. That is a big shift. That is a big change. There's a bunch of reasons. A portion of them cite the cost.
The cost of childcare is bananas.
It's bananas.
School is just, it's
crazy.
Unreal.
A portion of them cite worries about the state of the world, climate change.
Yeah.
And then 20% say, I just don't like kids.
And
The
these
state
are all
of the
fair
world-
reasons. I don't know about not liking kids.
The state of the world and climate change, meaning they don't want to add to our population because of the pressures.
Or
that
they're just
we
worried that the
humans
quality
put.
of life is getting worse and worse.
That's my son. He's big on I don't want to have kids. Like, this world is crazy. Like, he's just looking at the state of the world, looking at what's happening, unsure of what's going to happen. He's like, I'm not bringing a kid into this. This is crazy. He's still young though. Well, I say young. He's 25, so he's getting up. He's getting close to the time that I think kids would be appropriate. But when I look at my family, so my son is the third of my next generation. So I have a cousin that's 27. No, she'll be 28. Her brother will be 27. My son will be 26. None of them have kids. The one up underneath them is 24, no kids. Like, none of my next generation, none of them have kids. And we started having kids at, like, I think my cousin had hers at like 20, 21. I had mine at 23. And so you just see them getting older and older. What do you guys think about, what do you think about that video, Dr. Angeline?
Again, not surprised at all. I think this younger generation is seeing what's happening, right? And I understand how they don't want to move forward in having kids. A lot of them are excited about what they can do or may be able to achieve. But then I look at some of the students that I have, and they're like, we're getting this education, we're doing this, we're doing that. Are we going to be able to get paid? Are we going to find a good job? What does a career look like? So I think that a lot of them are taking the time out to really answer those questions. And somebody in the chat had wrote something about animals, and I started laughing. I said, animals get treated better than the humans. So I understand why a lot of people are having animals instead of children. And so, yeah, no. I fully agree. I understand why the young people are saying that. Yep.
There's this meme my son sent to me, or maybe I sent it to him. And it's this meme of this, you see these two little feet, and somebody says, this is the grandchild my mother wants. And it's like a foot that comes off. They take the sock off, it's in a foot. And then it says, but this is the grandchild they're going to get. And they take the sock off, and it's a dog's paw. And I sent it to my son because he's like, you bet I'm gonna get a pet and we're gonna figure it out. And I'd be like, no, come on, please. Aisha, do you think that, or rather, how much do you think that money influences family planning decisions right now?
Things are expensive. We can tell, look at the inflation rate and what people are earning compared to the cost of living is so far apart. So I can totally understand that. And then now also people want to have their independence sooner. They don't want to stay with family and stay like a communal way of living. So everybody's paying separately here and there, right? So these are the things that are happening. And I have children, and for me, even with the cost of living and everything happening, I'm still encouraging them to, when time comes to settle down and have their children, because children are the ones, they are human capital. They are so important. So whatever we choose, I know you can tell somebody what to do, but I also believe that no matter how much food or the cost of living is, you right now are here. If you don't fix the problem by having more families, then who is going to take care of the needs that you need, right? You need the hands as well, the young hands that are strong. So no matter how much things cost, eventually it will match itself. We just have to keep going and not allow that to deter us from having children or raising a family. Instead, find ways to fix it. Stay communally until you're able to do other things. Instead of saying, no, I'm going to do my own thing. Well, it's going to continue like this. And then you're going to end up being a burden to your family as well, because when you get older, there's no one to take care of you, right? It's a weirdest thing, that the dynamic that is shifting because of cost. I don't know. I encourage my kids, don't do that. If when you're ready, get married. We'll help you. We'll support you. We'll be there for you. That's the message we're giving our children, and not what the city is doing, or the communities, or the country is doing, because we know the country will lead you astray all the time. They will lead you astray and leave you hanging by yourself. So
yeah. Nomalanga, do you think that people don't want to have kids, or they just want to have fewer children today? Because if you ask Russell Wilson, that dude is like, I want another baby. Where is Cinco? I just saw him the other day. Saw him, but at the Met Gala, him and Sierra was there. And they were asking him, what does it feel? What is it like to love a Black woman or to be loved by a Black woman? And he was giving her the props and all the things that he does. And he was like, and now it's time for Cinco. Like, he's like, we're ready for another baby. Every 3 years, we need to be having a baby. And so do you think that is it financial? Because people who, I think I also saw something the other day that Elon Musk just bought a compound, like a 300-acre compound for his 11 children. So he's bringing all the children into one space. So is it a financial thing? People who have money are having more kids. People who are more financially savvy maybe are not. What do you think?
It definitely has nothing to do with cost, because the reason why I brought up immigration and I talk about minorities is if you look at the statistics in the United States, it's immigrants and minorities who, I think the average used to be like 1.8 kids per household or something like that. But that's if you looked at white families. Then if you started looking at minorities and immigrants, it was not 1.8, it was more. They were just having more kids. And then when you looked at the income, the white people would have the highest income, and then the immigrants and the minorities would have the lowest income, right? So it's not about cost. It's just about how you decide to live your life. I do feel like we are, and it's not just Americans, globally, we are becoming very individualistic. So it does play into it, because you're not really thinking in a community-based way. You're just thinking about, I don't want it and I have the right to be happy and do what I want. And that's fine. People can make their own decisions. But that's one of the things that I think is shifting what we're seeing. Then the other thing was that cost of living has been up and it's been down. The economy crashed in I think I was still working at the time in 2008, and everybody panicked, and then it recovered, and there was world wars before we were born. So even the excuse of, oh, the world is crazy or whatever, I mean, our parents and grandparents lived through the civil rights and apartheid. That was crazy. We're living in a much more peaceful time. So all those reasons and excuses are just that. They're just things that people throw out. But I think for what I've seen, it does come down to our value systems. I think we're becoming more and more individualistic. We're less about community, and we're just more about ourselves and our own quality of lives. And people perceive that, well, some studies do show that children do diminish your quality of life. But that's when you're looking at a point in time when they're small. But if you look at it holistically, they do definitely add more meaning and purpose to your life.
You get these broke best friends, but as they get older, I saw my son the other day. I was like, man, you listen. But yeah, it does add quality of life. Mother's Day is coming up. I'm super excited to hang out with my mom and my kid and whatnot. Not a kid, but yeah, I think that, this is crazy. Let's go to our next video. We'll keep our conversation going. Our producer said children are a blessing. They are legacy.
Kids anymore. So the Wall Street Journal just analyzed the latest data from the CDC on birth rates, and this is what they found. In 2025, America's total fertility rate fell to 1.57 births per woman. That's the lowest level ever, and well below the 2.1 replacement rate. Now, that alone is interesting, but there's much more to the story. The data also showed that women are having kids at much later ages. For instance, more women gave birth in 2025 between the ages of 35 and 39 than between 20 and 24, the first time that has happened. The 30 to 34 and 25 to 29 age groups have the most births still, but the shift towards older mothers is clear. Teen birth rates have declined dramatically too. For the 15 to 19 age group, births are down 72% since 2007. So big shifts are happening within that broader trend of declining fertility rates. Now, the 1.57 rate puts the US in the middle of the pack when it comes to the world as a whole. And it's very much in line with what pretty much every other country is seeing. But still, the US's rate is much higher than some other countries like South Korea, which is below 0.8, or China, which is around 1, or even much of Europe. On the other hand, countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia are still above replacement rate, though even in those countries, fertility rates are declining. So we'll see what happens. For now, even though the US is below the replacement rate, we're still seeing more births than deaths, 500,000 more last year. But the gap is shrinking, and projections show that it will flip in the next decade. After that, population growth will come solely from immigration. A lot of people think this is an economic problem, since there will be fewer working age people to support the growing number of elderly. But others think that technology like AI and robots could be the saving grace. So what do you think? Is this a problem? Let me know in the comments and follow for more insights on the economy and investing.
I think that was good, because when you think about it like that, if women are having children later in life, that could be one of the reasons why they're not having as many children. When you have children earlier, there's more time to have more children. If you have a child, most likely you'll want another one for a brother or sister. But so my best friend, I had my son when I was 23. And so we're all kind of the same age. We're all turning 50 this year. And I had my kid when I was 23, right before I turned 24, and they're still having a blast, living life, coming and going. And I'm like, okay, go. I got a kid. I got to stay home. And she had her first kid. She's been, her and her dude, which is my other best friend, they've been together since we were like 19, 20. And so we're all turning 50. So they've been together for like 30 years. They've been married, I think, probably like 15, maybe 10, 15. But anyways, she had her first kid at 42. And so oddly enough, it's flipped. I'm in my 50s, like, let's go and have a great time. She's like, I can't, I gotta be home with my kid. And I'm like, damn, I was 40 years old, we're having a baby. But it was good for her. Actually, it was good for her. But then when they went to have more kids, it's like, now you're like 45, 46, trying to have that second one. And so I think it's like a double-edged sword. Having kids later, if you want more, you're kind of pushing up against father time, versus when you're younger and it's not as hard. But I think you also aren't thinking about the economy when you do it younger, because you're thinking, I want Billy to have a brother or sister. You're not thinking about the price, right? What do you think, Aisha? You have 2 children?
2.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, when you get older, your fertility also, diminishes like dramatically. And I think people don't talk about the part that it costs them a lot to have that baby after 40 sometimes, because you're not able to really do the things that you want to do as well. And then also it's harder to have that child. The time you say, okay, I'm ready now, and then you're spending all this money just to do all this fertility, somersault to have that child. But I had my last child when I was 42. I wish I had him sooner, but I just had a difficulty having my kids. And because again, I waited a little later because I was 30 when I got married. So I totally understand that. That's why I also encourage my kids to get married earlier if they can. We'll support them, because we understand the value of having the kids sooner and raising them, and then go after whatever you want to go after, because the time will always be there. Like now I see myself working, and I'm working hard, and everybody is doing what they want to do. So really, it's true that we can't tell anybody what to do, but there are some things that just work when you do them in order, the right way. If you have the kids younger and you have more of them, you have the energy. And if your family is there to help you raise them together, now they're all grown, they can contribute to the family, because human capital is so powerful. It is so powerful. So if we diminish it by saying robots, now robots, guess what? Those robots eventually, even if they give you what you need, but that emotional, support and just that love is never going to be there. So I think that, oh my gosh, it's so hard to even comprehend that this is happening. But I'm not surprised with everything that's been going on over the years. This was bound to happen. So hopefully we're learning from it and we'll correct it. I think we should be thinking about correcting it than thinking it's okay, because it is not okay. And we will all suffer from it if we don't course correct.
Yeah. Dr. LaNee, what do you think scares people most about parenthood today? And if it's not too personal, right? I believe you don't have children. Why did you choose not to? Or was it a choice? Only if you feel comfortable sharing that.
No, absolutely. That's fine. Another thing, one of the other things that I heard, I don't quite agree that cost has something to do with it. I just don't agree with that, based upon the children and the kids can I tell y'all, my 12-year-old nephew told us the other day he ain't want kids. He's 12.
At 12?
I said, and I mean, it was like out the blue. I was like, wait, what? What? And so I told him, I said, well, I want you to think about that. And we're going to have a conversation about that. He just said it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. I asked him a couple questions. When they 12, they'll talk to you when they get ready. And then so I said, we're going to come back and we're going to visit this because I really am interested in hearing why you think that way. So that's on the table for when we come together another weekend. But also I think too, a lot of these young people, their mental health isn't as strong as ours was, right? When I listen to some of the stuff that they have in meltdowns and breakdowns about, I'm like, what in the world is happening with our young people and some of the things that they can't handle? And I'm just looking and listening. I'm really flabbergasted, really, at some of the stuff that I'm hearing. And I'm like, wow, they're having a real meltdown. And that's not to diminish how they feel or anything, because it's real. So I don't know if some of that has something to do with it as well. And again, I totally agree that a lot of them are looking for their independence. A lot of them are saying, no, I want to. And that was me. I was just like, now also you have to understand that my grandmother had over, when she transitioned, she was recognized for having over 200 foster kids come through her home. So it wasn't, and I was the oldest on at one of the grandchildren. So I was always helping out. I was always helping raise this one. I was taking this one to the store with me. This one was following me here. And I was like, oh, heck no, right? So I was like, enough is enough, right? Now, that was just my grandmother. My mom was the same way. Our house was the Kool-Aid house. Our house was the house that, as Aisha said, our house was the house that if a mother was a single mom, especially, was having a hard time with the children, after a while, my parents, my dad stayed out working, my mom stopped working after a while, stayed home, and then had her own businesses and did what she did. But sometimes my mom would take in those kids and let the parents get on their feet, or the single mothers get on their feet, and then come back and have those children. So that again meant, guess who else was helping with the kids, right? And so I was just like, and finally, I was like, oh, y'all can have all this. I ain't even had none of my own, and I'm taking care of everybody else's. I was like, But I love the fact that I had my cousins. I did love that part that we had a big family. So I had my uncles, my cousins, I had all of that. But that was a part of it, afterwards. So that's my story.
You made some very good points. So I want to ask Noma this. Do you think that either our lived experiences or social media, right, access to what's happening in the world, has changed the expectations or ideology around parenting for this next generation, or let's just say people between 15 and 30?
I do definitely hear a lot about freedom and independence, and I'm glad to hear that the teenage statistics have gone down, because
that part,
yeah. So I think at some point we were able to reiterate that, listen, if you don't think about this and you don't do this properly, you're going to lose out on opportunities. You're going to lose your independence and your freedom. Don't do this. Here's what you can do instead. Which is, abstinence, birth control, or whatever else. Just don't do it before a certain time, because it removes the options from you. But can you ask the question again?
I was asking, do you think that social media, right, what kids are seeing on social media with regards to parenting or hearing, right, because everybody has opinion, or their lived experience, basically kind of like what Dr. Angeline was saying, too many brothers and sisters, seeing what's happening over here at this house, and just like, I tap out. I don't want no parts of it.
What I'm recognizing about social media, having been on it a long time, is that a lot of times what we're hearing on social media is just a lot of talk, and it doesn't really resemble what's happening on the ground. Like you see all these battles between the black man and the black woman and all this other stuff. That's all social media stuff. And then all this talk about, well, a man must this and a woman that and all this. When you come on the ground, people are not having those conversations and they're not behaving like that. So I do think social media can influence, but your lived experience is definitely going to be a more powerful influence of the decisions you make. And I will say also though that when I got married, I think I was 26 and about to turn 27 when I got engaged, and I've had children in my 20s, my 30s, and my 40s. And my last child when I was 43. But I will say this, I think it's important to say this. When I was in my 20s and I was in graduate school, I was the queen of, oh no, I don't want to get married. I just want to live my life. Blah, 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 blah. But that's immaturity, and it can change. And it certainly did change. And as I got older, I started really appreciating family values and culture and tradition and community and all those things. And it only has become more skewed to the other side than that other side of I don't want.
I love that. That's good advice. And a good perspective. With maturity does come growth, and you start looking at things differently. To your point, I think when you're between that 15 and 30, you don't really know enough. You haven't experienced enough life. And a lot of times we're looking at something and we're perceiving it a certain kind of way, having not actually gone through it. If you're between 15 and 30, depending on how your parents were, depending on what you saw your mom and dad go through, and child support, like I think all of those things take into effect. Like I'm good. I don't have kids. I seen what my sister went through, or my aunt or something. I'm just gonna focus on my career. I'd rather be stable. I think a lot of that plays a part. Let's go to our next video. And then we'll keep this party going. Don't forget to let us know what you think in the chat.
All-time low. It has a lot of people panicking. They're trying to figure out why it's happening. Why aren't people having so many kids anymore? Well, simple. It's the economy, stupid. It now costs over $300,000 just to raise one child, and that's before you start talking about all the other issues. One of those issues, of course, being fertility. We know male fertility is dropping, and one of the reasons why it's dropping has to be what they're putting in the food. You can't tell me ultra-processed food with all of these ultra-processed strange chemicals can be good for fertility, not that people would be able to afford to have the kids anyway. But what the US needs to be doing, rather than focusing on turning people into baby machines again, is focusing on making a society that people actually want to bring up kids in, instead of making wars with countries far away in the Middle East. And to all the US policymakers not actually focusing on making life better for people, once again, you just made the D3 Listen podcast about gender.
You know what? I just thought about, I just wrote it down right now as he was talking. And hopefully I'm not backtracking or changing the subject, but you think about teen pregnancies versus women over 40. Like it's in the math. I think somebody said, I don't think it's economics. I think I might think that too, because historically, teen pregnancies is what's keeping us afloat. And if the teens aren't having the pregnancies and we're relying on women over 40 whose fertility is slowing down, that makes total sense why we're having these issues. Like we can't rely on the women over 40's eggs, but we shouldn't be relying on the teens either. So I think like that 20-year-old, we need our 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds to be populating. Because I think we did a good job of saying no more teen pregnancies. Finish school, get out of school, don't be I'm not gonna say don't sacrifice your life to have a baby, but take care of yourself first, right? Get yourself some education, be knowledgeable, be able to sit down and do homework with your kid, right? You should at least, like if you going to school, your baby going to school, you can't have the baby with math, like you should at least get the basics. And I think that maybe that has turned into that whole be independent, take care of yourself, make sure you have education so that you can take care of yourselves. And now women are having babies later instead of take care of yourself until you have a husband that can take care of you, until you're ready to build a family. Make sure you have a family, make sure that you're building a legacy, because now the pendulum has swung to women over 40. And we can't be relying. Listen, you can't rely on my eggs. First of all, on God and me, because I had them taken out. But you can't be relying on women over 40. We got fibroids. We got perimenopause. The eggs is like, we out of here. We don't want this conversation. Like, I never thought about it that way. Aisha, what do you think?
You're right. I'm laughing over here because it's true. The younger kids, I know, definitely, we're now advising them, wait, finish your school, then you can, focus on having your kids. But we can rely on the older population to be the ones to do that, because again, they're older and they don't have the energy to do all the stuff, but the younger ones can. But there's a time that is the right time, right? By the time you're maybe 25 and up, you can focus on that, but because then you're done with school, you can start having your children. But I think it's going to be very hard to put any particular group, to be the one to do anything. I think it's, at the end of the day, it has to be something that we just allow to happen naturally as a country or as a world. Just allow it to happen, because if we try to control things, that's what happens. See what happened with China, right? All the baby girls were being thrown out and put aside, and now they have a country filled with men only, right? So these things happen if we try to control things ourselves. But just let it happen naturally. Somebody young has a child, how can we help them raise this child? Let the country, have things in place to support, instead of going to, like Anonymous was saying, having wars and all the money spent to, instead, put it back in your country. Let them have the kids, take care of them in whatever is needed to make that child have a good life. The cost of living and just family life is enjoyable, then people will just do it naturally. But if we're making things difficult, and cost of living, or no support system, or one person does so much and then the other one see and they say, no, I don't want to do it either. So I think if we just let it happen naturally and let the country hopefully allow things to actually be doable instead of making it difficult, I think things will be better. So no particular age is put on the map. You got to do this, you got to do that, because everybody's different. And my journey is not the same as yours. I may not find somebody to marry me until later, but I still want to have a child, or I may not want to have a child at all. So I think let's just
I think that the fact that our youth coming up behind us are maturing later, right?
Mhm.
They're not maturing as fast as we were. I was trying to get emancipated at 14. I was like, I got it figured out. Let me get out in these streets. Thank the Lord, my mom did not let me do that, because that was a smart move. But we operated differently. We were stronger. We were taking control. We were doing things way differently, quicker, sooner, faster than our children are doing them, right? And I think that our parents struggle, we struggle, and then we was like, we're not gonna have our children struggle. And now they like, listen, we don't want that hard life. We want to take it a little bit easy. And so what do you I'm sorry, I told my executive producer we would come back around to this, let's make it about Black women specifically, right? If we make it about Black women specifically, and we go back to that video where we're talking about actual fertility, is it in the food? Is it what we're eating? Is it in our hair products? Because I know that they have some research has said that fibroids can be associated with relaxers, right?
Mhm.
So there are a variety of different reasons outside of age as to why people are not able to have children, right? Executive producer was talking about women who are having multiple miscarriages, right? Do you think that our food, or let me say it this way, the things that we're putting in our bodies, right, are contributing to the fact that women are not having children until later, or incapable of having children at all? Dr. Angeline, what are your thoughts on that?
I fully agree. I just watched something the other day as well. I forgot what those planes that you keep seeing, those planes flying
All
everywhere,
the
and
ones that let the stuff down into the
they're spraying the
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. And how that is causing issues in our body and skin issues. I think about some of my friends who, when we were younger, were trying to get pregnant. And they were having all kinds of issues. I remember when I had fibroids, found out I had fibroids. I was like, what? And I remember I had a Black doctor, sister was cool as I don't know what. She was like, listen, why don't you take some of your eggs and harvest them, right? Keep them just in case when you get older, you may want to have kids as well. So that was an option too. And I don't think we talk about even that with our kids. I think that's something that we don't have those conversations. And so I do believe that the food, a lot of this stuff, but the program that I just watched recently was talking about how this GMO stuff and chicken's not chicken now, and this is put in here. And I was just like, oh my God, this is disgusting. Not even for a fertility reason, just disgusting, period. So yeah, I know a lot of Black women that are having struggles and are having some issues with having kids. And I do believe food is causing a lot of it. Yes.
All right, good points. So before we go to Noma, we're going to go to this video, and then we're going to come back and keep this conversation going because you brought up a good point, and that's what the video is going to talk about. And then we'll just keep going from there. We're ready when you're ready.
Check out this interesting stat. Live birth rates across the world, and certainly in the US, are falling really to historic lows. People are just not having babies the way that they used to and at the rate that they used to. And while this is true for a number of reasons, one of the big ones is just that women are wanting to postpone their family building many times because they're wanting to stay in school or start their career or advance their career and focus on that until they're a little bit older. And while that is totally fine, you got to understand that having kids in your 30s and 40s is quite a bit different and more challenging in many cases compared to your 20s. And so we can do something about that. We can talk about preserving your fertility by freezing eggs and freezing embryos so that when the time comes, you're ready and your chances are not lower and you've got more options and we're not under the gun. So let's do that.
Nomalanga, what are your thoughts? This is a perfect question for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely not about all that freezing and all that other stuff. I do think that it's good that it's an option. When you get to it, I'm at an age where it's questionable whether women my age can have children or not. And I cannot imagine having gotten to this age, never having had children, and then just not knowing if it's going to happen or not. And it's nice to know that there's that option that maybe 10 years ago I could have frozen my more healthy and young eggs, and then now I can use them. I get that. But some of it has to do, some of it is our religious beliefs. Some of those things just won't work. And I was going to bring that up as well and say that in terms of, is this, talking about GMOs and all this, do those things affect our health? Absolutely. Do they affect fertility? Absolutely. Diet, exercise, all those things do. And you're finding now that people are struggling with fertility, both men and women, as early as 40 years old or even earlier. That, be that as it may, it's not that. It's the choices that we're making. We're deciding that we don't want children. We're deciding that we're going to delay having children. Those are the more dominant factors. And then also, people don't want to say it. The fact that you can just go have an abortion if you get pregnant, that's also a factor. I was raised in the Roman Catholic Church, and I remember when I was growing up, I'm not Roman Catholic anymore, but when I was growing up, I couldn't believe it. They said, well, women now are allowed to have birth control, but in Roman Catholic, you can't even have birth control. So if the baby comes, it's just going to keep coming and coming. But those things have gone away, or the rules have relaxed. People can use birth control. Even a married woman can be on birth control and decide to delay having children. And even if they do make a mistake or an unexpected pregnancy, they have the option to go to Planned Parenthood or whatever it is and get rid of it and then move on with their life and then maybe have it later or whatever it is. So those are choices. Those are actual choices. And they are more of a factor than where you get to 40 or whatever it is and your fibroids or whatever it is that are affecting you. Those are factors, but they're not the main factors. It's our choices that are affecting this.
I love it. I think we have one more video. We're going to do the video. We're going to give you some stats. We're going to do our final thoughts, and then we're going to get out of here. So let's do our final video real quickly. And then
nobody at all. Because the first time in history, you had people literally in the grocery store really trying to figure out how they're going to afford their medication. Like, you literally have people out here that are like, man, do I really need to get bread today, or can I just, just rock without it? I mean, you have 30-year-olds who are literally living in their parents' home, and they like, man, I can't even afford to get a place for myself. Why in the world I'm gonna bring a child into this basement that I'm living in with my parents? Like, what? You got car payments that are as much as the rent was back in 1999. You literally have people. Mind you, I live down here in Dallas. Okay, I had a part-time job, and there I was making $11 an hour. Who can survive off of that? Where? In what universe? You literally have people out here that has a full-time job, a part-time job, a side gig, and then they doing DoorDash and Uber Eats on the weekends after they doing Amazon Flex. What? And they still can't afford life. Not to mention childcare is as much as rent. And I literally mean my rent. No. Nobody can be surprised by this. Not a single soul. Like, I thought about buying a house. I thought about it for about 2 seconds until I realized I can't afford one right now. I can't afford at 42. At 42, baby. Can't nobody be surprised. Nobody.
Well, she didn't lie.
Listening to her make my head hurt.
Yeah, some of it was the truth. I remember when so I moved out of the house at 18. My mom told me that I had to pay for toilet paper, and I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not about to pay for toilet paper at your house. I'll just get my own. And so I moved out, but I could, we lived in the East Valley. And so I moved all the way to Phoenix. We had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath for $484. And even at that, me and like 4 of my homegirls moved in. So we was paying $85 a month to live over there. And we had a blast. We call it our college years because, I was raggedy back in them days. And so, man, today.
And then you need to write a book.
I have written a book. Look, right here.
No.
Let me tell you what I was doing at that time. Stripping to the core.
No, we need like an autobiography.
At that time, I was making like at 19 years old, I'm making like $3,000 to $5,000 cash, paying $85 a month in rent. Crazy.
Wow.
But different times today. That same hood apartment today, I was over on that side of town. Today, that bad boy is going for $1,500. $1,500. And when I say it's on Crackhead and Pill Row, like it's not the best part of town. $1,500. How is a 19-year-old, 20-year-old supposed to pay $1,500? $25. Like, what kind of jobs do they have paying that? I mean, you can get a roommate. Like, that's, I'm trying to talk, you can get a roommate and stuff, but it's very different today. We're going to do final thoughts, but let me do the stats before we do our final thoughts. Let's see here. We have, I think I'm going to read them. Student loan debt and inflation continue to impact long-term family planning decisions. That's a good one. A growing number of adults report delaying marriage and children due to financial instability. Housing affordability has reached historic lows for many first-time buyers. Childcare costs in many states now rival or exceed monthly rent or mortgage payments. That's crazy. The average cost of raising a child to age 18 in America is estimated to exceed $300,000. The U.S. birth rate is projected to fall to around 1.53 births per woman, far below the replacement level of 2.1. That is wild. Wild. All right, so before we do our final thoughts, let me give you your Black History Woman fact for the day. It is Dr. Dorothy Height. She has dedicated her life to advocating for Black families, women, and economic equality. She understood that financial stability and strong communities were deeply connected to the health of family life. Her work highlighted how economics, opportunity, and support systems shape future generations. Shout out to Dr. Dorothy Height and the work that she has done and continues to do. If she's still alive, I don't know. All right, that being said, today was a great conversation. I think it's always, first of all, Flight New Money always does a value add conversation, but I think that this one was super important, and it's one of those ones that I don't think we emphasize enough or talk about enough, and it's something that we can impact based on the fact that we have young people that we're connected to that are in our homes, so we can talk about it, we can educate them, things of that nature. That being said, I think my final question for you guys with your final thought is, if you had to communicate the importance of family life or a village, what would you tell someone? Aisha, I'll start with you.
Family life is all about community. I really believe that if we start with the foundation of saying that in this house, you can build here. You don't have to be quick to want to go find your own. Stay here as long as you need to, and we'll support you and we'll be there for you until you're able to launch. And when you launch, you're ready to go out there without too much stress, meaning we just continue that community wherever you go, right? To me, that would be the first thing I would really emphasize as a family, is that we build together and support each other, so that way nobody feels that they have to go out there on their own and try to figure it out by themselves, because we know it's not easy. That is why the family unit is so important, right? That's my first thing I would tell them. And then also just encourage them not to allow what society is doing to detect what is right, because society can throw things at you all day long with their opinions, right? But there are things that are true and right, that if we just stay on that path and just keep doing what we need to do, and if we go astray, we course correct, we're back again as a community to keep building and thinking about future, not just today, not my feelings today, but how will this affect our family today, 5, 10, 20, 100 years from now. If we think like that as a community, it will make a huge difference. All this ups and down wouldn't matter, because society will do what society does. That's just the way it is. And also encourage them to have, to believe in their faith, and understand that if you don't replace yourself or do what is to keep that, then what? Robots will become the ones not to dominate in the future. That's not what we want. We want real human beings that we can grow together and build together, so that way we have a place where our emotions, our love, is strong. That would be what I think about that. Where anybody can find me is the Black Business School, and also AishaVerzi.com, and I put my number there because people they can all reach me. I say, well, you have my number there if you want to reach me and ask any question regarding finance. Don't be afraid about finance with child rearing. It's all relative. Human beings are also capital that can give you something for the future. So think about that. But that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Dr. Angeline, your final thoughts?
So I believe that, yes, it does take a village. I'm grateful for the background that I had, where I learned the importance of community and village. Love it. Unfortunately, it's not everybody's story. Unfortunately, we're not always helping those who may not be related to us. Listen, I just had a 65-year-old woman staying at my house for 6 months. Ate right, did all the right things. Something happened mentally, something clicked, right? Watched somebody die, all these different things, and just had to help her get herself back to go ahead, so that now she's out. She got her own place. So unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Unfortunately, we don't even, in New Jersey, I'm telling you right now, we don't even have enough houses to house some of the folks, right? And then when we do, they cost an arm, a leg, they cost your whole body. And so I understand where these young people are. But again, yes, it does take a village, but I think we got to get back to that whole mindset. And then you got to be careful who you're letting in your house too, but that's another story. I am Dr. Angeline Dean. I am the founder of Melanated Neurons Communiverse, an identity affirming STEM subscription box for Black children ages 7 through 12. You can find me at Intersystems with a Z on the end .rocks, or info@melanatedneurons.com.
Awesome. Dr. Angeline, remind me when we do your strategy session to connect you with, I have a client who has one of the largest Black homeschool networks. Remind me, because I want to connect you to. Okay. Nomalanga, final thoughts on today's topic. This is right up your alley, so I know you got something powerful to say.
The pressure. Actually, I'm glad you actually brought up homeschooling. I've spent the last 10 years showing women that this idea that you cannot step away from corporate is actually not right. You can. And the question isn't whether you can or cannot, it's how you can do it. And it's the same thing here. We have to think about our values. Every single thing that we're suffering from now is because we've devalued family. You talk about people saying it's too much trouble or too much work to have a child. Well, if you're a single mother, absolutely. It's too much trouble, and well, not too much, it's a lot of work. Even when there's two parents and there's grandma and grandpa and there's aunts and uncles. It was designed that way. We're all supposed to support each other. So I cannot imagine having a child by myself, and then my mom says, girl, I'm going to the club, I can't help you again. I cannot imagine. And that's some people's realities. So if you look at it that way, that every time we have devalued family, every step that we've taken has made things much harder for everybody. So if you can reinstate the family, it really does get easier. So let's forget about the cost of living, because that's not a factor. Let's not talk about the world being crazy. It's always been crazy. It's going to get crazier. And that's the rhetoric that's supposed to dissuade us from just the most basic thing. And if you can instill that in your children, that the most important thing is, as a human being, cultivate in yourself a person who's going to contribute positively to society, marry a person who's going to contribute positively to society, and raise children that are going to positively contribute to society. It's just a very basic model, and somehow we're failing at it. So I can't say that enough. I think I say it every time I get the opportunity, and that's one of the ways that we can restore our families, restore our community, and restore the country. Where you can find me. So 2 courses at the Black Business School. One of them is a guide on how to homeschool Black children specifically. I think I created that course over 10 years ago, and it's still relevant because these things keep coming up in the conversation. Another one is about how to emancipate yourself from working in corporate and working for yourself. And again, that's also a relevant conversation here. And then you can also find me on Instagram as Ms. Nomalanga, and you can find me also at Facebook as Nomalanga Habroni. Great conversation, ladies.
I love it. I love it. My final thought on this particular topic is really just, man, we need more villages. I think that if people felt safe to have children and that they could trust their village, that for the Black community anyways, we would do better. I think we need to get back to our Black love, Black excellence, 2-parent households, just that community and village environment where people feel safe and comfortable, and they know that, they have the support, right? Again, my mom asked me, can you do it by yourself? It's not that you want to, but it's, can you, should it come down to that? And I think that a lot of times people just don't feel safe or comfortable that they can do it by themselves, that they have the maturity to do it by themselves, or that they have the support. We don't want to do it that way. We want to do it with 2 people. So I think if we just get back to a village, our community will see better birth rates. And so that's my final thought on that. I am Dr. LaNee Javette. You can find me. Please go follow me at I am Dr. LaNee Javette on Instagram, Facebook, and or LinkedIn. Based on our conversation today, at the end of the day, this conversation is not really about whether people love children less. It's about whether people feel financially safe enough to build the lives that they actually want. For many families, the loss of survival is taking priority. The cost of survival is taking priority over long-term dreams. And that changes how people think about marriage, parenting, and the future itself. Because when basic stability starts feeling out of reach, family planning stops feeling personal and starts feeling economic. And so that's the conversation that we're having today. If you want to keep up with us on a day-to-day basis, make sure you text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. Again, that's 87948. But you can always tune in and watch us live Monday through Friday, 1:00 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fly Nubian Money. If you miss us, you can catch us on Spotify, or you can go back and watch us on YouTube later, whatever works best for you. But as always, go out today. Have a great day. Be blessed. Stay Black. Be beautiful. Talk nice to yourself and somebody else. And no matter what, be one. We'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Dr. LaNee Javette with Aisha Verzi, Nomalanga, and Dr. Angeline. See you tomorrow.